So the 2024 presidential debate has finished, and we have the 7 swing states. We're going to talk over the election. Obviously, the polling has not happened yet because you can't really poll in one day. So we're not going to necessarily be looking at polling today. We do have it up just in case we need to refer back to it, but we're going to be talking over the debate points and how it maybe will affect certain states. Now, I maintain a debate, I said in the last video, can kill your campaign, which it absolutely can, but as long as you hold your own, you're not going to lose or gain a lot of support. And unless there's really major talking points there, not a lot is going to change in that aspect. But when you talk about Mondale in his election and Reagan, giving the joke about his age, that killed Mondale. That wasn't the only reason Mondale got wiped off the map, but it really did kill any sort of momentum that he had. But there wasn't any moments like that, and we all thought Harris was going to search for them. We thought she was going to go looking for the I'm speaking moment like she had with Mike Pence. That's what everyone was saying. She's going to look for that moment. And it actually felt more like Trump was trying to do that. He did it twice. He said, "Does that sound familiar?" Of course. And it really felt like he was the one searching for the viral moment, which was really unusual. But anyway, we can get into each of the points. So we start the debate. Harris comes out. She gives a big long speech. It felt very rehearsed because it didn't really answer the question, and it got the points out there that I'm sure the party would have told her this is what you need to say. But I don't want to be too harsh on her on that one, because you go out there, you're trying to remember what you want to say. You can't have a go or nitpick at someone because they're remembering a speech, you know what I mean? I think that's fine. It's not ideal. You want to connect with voters on that personal basis and feel like you're actually talking to them, which she was looking into the camera, but it really didn't feel like she was connecting with the voters. It felt like she was trying to recite something. Anyway, we can get to the moderation. So the moderation was awful. There's no question about it. Harris did not get fact-checked once, and Donald Trump obviously did. I saw one that said 5 times. I saw another count that said 11 times. It felt more like 11, to be honest. And at one point, David Muir was literally just debating with Trump. It was kind of ridiculous. And they should not be fact-checking live. CNN was the example of how to do a debate. They were fair. They asked questions that favoured Biden. They asked questions that favoured Trump. And they were fair. They didn't try and fact-check in the moment. But ABC were awful. There's no question about it. You had the abortion in Minnesota thing about Tim Walz and the abortions after 7, 8, 9 months, and they say, well, that's actually, it's not possible to kill the baby after it's born, which it's not legal to do. That's right, to kill it. But they have, and the Virginia thing as well, where they put the baby to the side and the guy said it. There's videos of the guy saying it, but that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, talking about Minnesota, they do, if the baby is supposed to be aborted and it lives through the birth, they will leave it there to die, and it will not receive life-saving care, which it could have. So you're not killing the baby in terms of, you're not ending its life with one swing, but you are essentially killing the baby, and the baby is dying. So that was one point that was wrong, that the fact checkers, which people are going to, an average voter would believe that they have the facts, which they didn't on that case. You go to the Charlottesville thing and the good people on both sides, and that's been debunked so many times. The Project 2025 thing, I don't think your average voter even knows what that is. I don't think they care what that is. They say Trump's, he loves Project 2025, he loves all of the aspects of it, but no one really knows what it's about. She didn't really explain it either, because I don't know if she knows what it's about. But he said so many times, he says every time, that he is not involved in Project 2025. He has made a point to not read it because he does not care about it, and they keep bringing it up. It's really unusual, but alas. And then there was the bloodbath thing, which there would be a bloodbath if you lose the election. That was economically, and everyone kind of knows that. And then there was the whole David Muir said, I didn't detect the sarcasm thing, which, it didn't sound too sarcastic. But that's an interpretation. That's not a fact check. That's an interpretation. And then at that point, you are just debating him. So really awful moderation, some of the worst ever. But that's not to take away from Harris. I think the moderation did a disservice to Harris because she was actually performing a lot better than Trump at that early stage in the debate without the moderation interfering. And then when they did, it kind of took away from her solid performance to start off. There's no question. They started talking about the economy. Harris was a little bit more shaky on that one, and immigration as well. But overall, she stood up there and she was fine. She didn't make an embarrassment of herself. There was one moment where she really looked like she was going to forget what she was saying, and she kind of did for probably 5 seconds or so. But then she remembered, she got back on track, and that was fine. So she really did better than I expected. I really thought she was going to go out there and have a moment where she just freezes, and this would be the end of the campaign. This is really a spanner in the works. This is great for me because I can keep talking about this and people are still interested. Anyway, Trump's a lot less sharp. I talked to someone who keeps an eye on US politics but really isn't too involved, and he said Trump looks a lot slower than usual, which at 78 years old or however old he is now, you are gonna slow down. But if your average person is picking that up, that's really not a good thing for Donald Trump. If he is or not, maybe we'll see. I'd say he seems more calm than he was before. He was a lot more punchy in 2016 and certainly 2020 because he felt that he was being attacked for no reason, and he felt really strongly about it. So he was really coming out really punchy. I don't think he's the same anymore. I think he's sort of at peace with the fact that if he doesn't win this, he can go home and he doesn't have to deal with this anymore. So I think he's just more calm and maybe measured, but your average person is probably thinking, oh, he's not as entertaining anymore, I guess, which that doesn't equal votes. But at the same time, they've been talking about cognitive decline for Joe Biden, and completely fairly, but it's on people's minds now. They may ask the same question about Donald Trump. The whole point of the Harris debate, or the whole point from the Harris campaign of the debate, was to get under Trump's skin and make him take the bait, get off topic, stop talking about policy, which she actually wasn't too bad on. She kind of held her own in that aspect quite well. Not perfect, but she was fine. She didn't melt down. And Trump took a lot of the baits, I think. He really did not need to. I can't believe they hadn't reinforced into him, do not take any of these baits on your personality. And he did. He really did. And to be fair, the moderation was probably winding him up because it was 3-on-1. And I say in my notes here that anyone would lose in a 3-on-1 debate because it was 3-on-1. If you don't like Donald Trump, you can admit it was 3-on-1 because not once did they fact check Harris, and you can't say that Harris didn't lie. She did. And everyone's going to lie in a debate. Joe Biden lied in the debate. Donald Trump lied in the last debate, and they didn't fact check him because you can't fact check live. You just can't. Donald Trump would have lied in 2016. Hillary Clinton would have lied in 2016. It's just something that happens. People can then go themselves and find out the truth. But anyway, Trump took the baits. One thing Harris did that was not helping her and actually made her look really bad was the head shaking and the pulling faces and squinting, and it just came off as immature. It came off as Hillary Clinton 2016, where she just appeared condescending, and it was so unnecessary because Trump mentioned the cats, and that was just you can't mention the cats because the Republicans are obviously going to try and make jokes out of it. The Democrats are obviously going to try and make jokes out of it. But even though it's true, which it was true, they talked about it on the broadcast. They tried to fact check him. They say, oh, there's no proof of it. It's even more is coming out to say that it did happen, and it has been happening. The only problem, the worst part was when Trump said, I saw it on TV. Well, that's just, again, someone who doesn't know about the situation is not gonna. They're gonna hear Trump say. They're gonna hear the moderators say, well, these are the facts from the city. And they're going to hear Trump say, well, I saw it on TV, and you know which way they're going to believe. So that was really not great. He brought up the cats and ducks thing, and he really didn't need to. It was really unnecessary. I was really hoping he wasn't going to bring that up for his sake, because it makes him seem mental. Even though it is true, you just don't need to bring it up, because it's so outlandish that your average voters, it's so far that your average voter's not going to believe it, and it's only been in the news for the last 2 or so days that no one believes it yet. No one knows it yet. Obviously, over the next few days, maybe people do start to see about it, but we'll see. Trump had the Virginia blunder, which was a really weird one, because he mentioned it in the last debate, and he said Virginia, and then he came out in this one, and he said West Virginia, and he said it twice when he was talking about the former governor of West Virginia, or the former, I've done it now, the former governor of Virginia, talking about the baby and how they'll put it aside after it's born and decide what to do with it, which is a terrible, terrible thing. And he said West Virginia, and then he said West Virginia again, and then the point came up later in the debate, and he said Virginia, but he didn't. I don't remember him correcting himself and saying, "Oh no, it's not West Virginia, it's Virginia," which you want that clarity, even if he's admitting an error. You just want that clarity. You want him to be able to admit his mistakes. I guess maybe a vote. Again, these are tiny, tiny things which I really don't think are going to sway anyone. But just nitpicking, if you were going to say, okay, the election's decided on the debate, these are things that you'd point out. So, anyway, Harris had moments where she forgot what to say, which we've gone over, but she didn't have her word salads, which we talked about, and we said, oh, this is probably going to happen. She's going to have a moment where she goes off on a tangent, and Trump's going to go, he's going to do what he did to Joe Biden and say, I don't even think he knows what he's just said, and he's going to say that about her. But again, that did not happen. She was very direct. Again, it felt like a little bit was from a script, but who cares? As long as you get the point across, that's what matters, and I guess that worked. Again, Harris felt rehearsed, but who cares? As long as you get the point across. Megyn Kelly said the climate change questions were very unnecessary, which I believe also they were. Obviously, Megyn Kelly, a Republican, very strong Republican, and she said Megyn Kelly asked why there were no questions on the transgender issue, and I agree. Why were there no questions about the mutilation of the? I'm starting to sound like Donald Trump. I've watched perhaps too many videos of him. But why were there no questions on the mutilation of the kids? It's wrong, and Trump should have mentioned more about health as well with Robert Kennedy. He should have mentioned Robert F. Kennedy more, because that's an example of a Democrat going against his family heritage and saying, look, this is wrong, and if you want to, especially on the topic of health, which a lot of people will hold dear to their hearts, everyone's had a loved one lost because of health, okay, in a broad sense. So he really needed to zero in on that a little bit more, I think. Really, overall, I just think Trump did not get across the points he needed to. His closing statement was brilliant. It was just, if that was his opening statement, which I know they didn't have opening statements, but you can get a 30-second statement in there. Also, in the closing statement, he kind of ran out of things to say, it felt like a little bit. He was just trying to get to the finish line. But yeah, really not great for Trump, to be honest, but not the end of the world either. I don't want to act like, okay, he's lost the election. Polymarket has it even, which of course they were going to have it. I mean, I could have told you that before the night. Even as long as Harris didn't have a massive blunder, it would have ended even. So Michigan is going to lean Harris. We know this. This is just what's going to happen. North Carolina is also going to lean Trump still. Then we get down to, okay, Wisconsin. Did anything in the debate change what would happen with a Wisconsin voter? Maybe a lot of undecideds. Over in Wisconsin, a lot of white men are the undecideds at the moment. Did Harris say anything to dispel their fears that she really doesn't have a plan on the economy? She got a lot of words out there, but it really didn't feel like she knew what she was talking about. She sounded very nervous as soon as the economy came up. So I think you'd probably say if anyone won the economy issue, it's Trump, which we kind of knew was going to happen. But at the same time, I don't think he won it by a massive margin, to be honest with you. So I don't think it really moves the needle there. I think if this debate was going to move the needle anywhere, the most, it would probably be Wisconsin, and then maybe Pennsylvania. And Georgia. We'll get to Georgia because I've got a point about that. But anyway, Wisconsin, I think, stays lean to Harris and Walz. We get to Georgia. Okay. One thing Trump needed to keep talking about was Harris in the California Attorney General role, and how she disproportionately arrested black men, and how black men should vote for Trump because he's doing better with black men, and black men really aren't so fond of Kamala Harris. But he really needed to zero in on that and say, look, you need to vote for me because she is disproportionately, she tried to defund the police, which has become a very unpopular thing. It was maybe popular in 2020, but it is very unpopular now. You cannot go out and say that. And I think he did mention defunding the police kind of briefly. Also, and I'll go off on another tangent here, but the bullet to the head, he said, I took a bullet to the head for America. And David Muir got straight in there and he was like, right, let's move on because this, and David Muir was, I mean, Lindsay Davis was not great, but David Muir was absolutely disgraceful. And I don't know if the moderation would have harmed Trump because he seemed to kind of do quite well with it. I mean, maybe it annoyed him, but he seemed to do quite well with it. So I think it harmed Harris more than anything, the debate moderators, because they really made it seem like it was everyone against Trump, and they really didn't need to do that at all. Because again, Harris was doing quite well. Anyway, you go to Georgia. I still think Trump wins there. He needed to talk about her role as Attorney General more. I think he failed to do that. He should have done that more. But still, I don't think anything. I think there was My point is there was potential for him to widen his margin in Georgia, and he didn't do that. But I don't think he's going to lose anything in Georgia. So you're kind of net the same. So Pennsylvania is going to decide this, but we will go over Arizona and Nevada. I still think Trump did a decent job on abortion. He didn't do a great job. And then there was the weird thing about J.D. Vance, and they said, well, J.D. Vance said something, and Trump was like, well, I haven't talked to him, or something along those lines. It was really just an awkward moment, to be honest. But Arizona, I think, would stay Republican because even though abortion's a big issue down there, you've seen the big RFK support. Trump's widened his margin there. It's really not as much of a swing state as it was about a month ago. So I think you'd say Trump still takes Arizona. Now, this is where we go to the polls. Because again, I need to remind myself of the polling in Nevada. Because, well, that's why. It is neck and neck. It's been closing for a very long time now. For, 2 weeks or so. It's been closing. And now it's essentially even. You look at the last few polls, Trump's up. So as these Harris polls drop out, maybe Trump will go up in the average. Maybe this Harris debate performance has saved her lead in Nevada in the polling. Again, Republicans, I want to make the point I made yesterday. Republicans always are underestimated in the polling, perhaps since Romney. So, or certainly under Trump's tenure as Republican leader. Nevada's such a tough one. I think it's essentially doesn't matter at this point because in this election forecast, Pennsylvania will decide the election. Was there anything in there that changed anything? Another missed opportunity for Trump. The no tax on tips thing. This isn't necessarily just affecting Nevada. I don't think it impacts there any more than it does any other state, even though it's happened there. But Trump should have made a point of, look, she doesn't know what she's talking about. He did, to be fair, he did say he would give her a MAGA hat, but he should have specifically talked about the no tax on tips thing in Nevada. I don't think he mentioned it by name. I think he alluded to it. He said, oh, she's stealing my campaign, but he needed to get into it. He needed to talk about it specifically. I think that would have done him good. Again, I think it's just missed potential for Trump. I don't think he lost. I think my conclusion would be he just didn't win as much as he could have. Anyway, Nevada, I think I had it as a Republican win. I genuinely say it's a toss-up at this point. Literally, I think it will be 0.4% either way. But if you were to push me right now, I'd probably... Oh, it's such a tough one. It's been moving right. It's only gone Republican once since 2004. I'd probably say you just squeak it in Nevada for the Democrats. I did not have that last time, and this is not necessarily to do with the debate. I don't want to negatively react to something that he didn't do which would have positively benefited him. So I kind of, I feel like I am doing that maybe a little bit. But I really think, looking back on it, I should have had it as a Democrat win, because it may be moving to the right, but it's certainly not there yet, in my opinion. Pennsylvania is the last one. This is the election decider. So we look at the polling. Trump's kind of always been up. I feel like you've got this morning consult poll, which is always interesting, always off from the recent polling. Again, look, even Harris +1, even Trump +1, even Trump +2, +1. Well, that's internal. Even Trump +2, and then you get a +3 for Harris, and then you get an even from the Telegraph. So difficult. Pennsylvania, again, was there anything in there that you talk about? Perhaps the Green New Deal, I guess. I really don't think, again, there was anything that's going to swing the undecided voters in there. I think if there is another debate, I think that would be massive. But right now we don't have one scheduled. Trump would say, well, I'd only do it on Fox, and rightly so after this. And also ABC News have lost Republicans now. This is the end of it. They're never going to moderate another debate, because this was, unless they're absolutely desperate, because this was absolutely ridiculous from David Muir. Anyway, Pennsylvania, I had it as a Trump win last time. I'm probably going to say it's still a Trump win, because I don't want to put too much stock in this debate. It's such a tough one. Again, Nevada and Pennsylvania are complete toss-ups at this point. I feel like Georgia, you could say, okay, it's about 1%. Wisconsin's probably about 1 or 2, maybe 3. Arizona's probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 on a good night. And Michigan's probably between 3 and 5. But Pennsylvania, I think you'd probably say it's just leaning Trump, but that is such a difficult one. That could literally go either way, and that would decide the election. But anyway, please let me know what you think about this, because I have heard all sorts of opinions. I saw someone Republican give David Muir an 8 on his moderation performance. That is insane. That is absolutely mental. With someone who doesn't have a horse in the race, I don't really, it doesn't matter to me who wins. As a British person, I'd probably say I'd want Harris to win, because we can I feel like she's weaker. We could probably rip off the US easier with her. She doesn't really know what she's talking about. Obviously, she's got people behind her, but she doesn't really know what she's talking about. But on social issues, I do fear what Walz and Harris would do. Anyway, that's not to get into now. Let me know what you think in the comments, because I'm really interested. I am genuinely really interested to see people's perspectives on this debate. I was looking all night. I was looking at what people were saying from different sides of the spectrum. So I want to hear what you have to say. Also, subscribe if this is your first video, because we are going to do more of this election map content over the next few weeks as the polls come out and leading up to the election, and we get the early response data, the early voting in North Carolina, Virginia, these other states. So like the video if you enjoyed it only. If you didn't enjoy it, feel free to dislike. Share the video, because that would help me a lot. Comment on the video, because I want to know what you have to say. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this content.